Welcome back to Breaking the Barrier. I'm your host, Rebel Saklocha, and today we are visiting with a powerhouse from all the way down in Texas. Today we are joined by Kendra Elder. She's an agriculturalist, a true professional, and is the event coordinator for the Will Rogers Memorial Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Kendra, thanks for being here.
Howdy, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's pretty cool to have Kendra on the podcast today as we met briefly 4 years ago now, gosh, in Fort Worth while both interning for the Cowboy Channel. I followed along with Kendra from the outskirts for quite a while, and I'm really excited to share her story with you today. So to kick things off, give us a glimpse into your background and upbringing. I know you have some pretty strong roots in agriculture.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me, Rebel. It's such an honor. And yes, small world meeting 4 years ago during the NFR here in Texas. During COVID, it was all crazy. I'm a third generation cattle raiser. And my family, we have a purebred operation down here in Texas. Originated in Whitney, Texas. I was born here in Fort Worth, Texas, and attended Texas A&M University, pursuing a major in agriculture communications with a minor in recreational parks and tourism sciences. And through that minor, I obtained a professional event management certification. I showed cattle all over the country for 12, 13 years. To competitive state and national level. I served as Miss Charlotte USA in 2017, where I represented the American International Charlotte Association for the junior and the older breeders as well. I traveled all over the country to the American Royal, National Western, and the Louisville Nally, and just had a blast. And my passion runs really deep in the cattle industry. My family, like I said, we raise purebred Charolais, and we also focus on a smaller show club calf operation. When I was 11, I had the opportunity to exhibit the Supreme Champion heifer at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo and Rodeo Austin with the heifer that my family raised and is now the dominant donor cow in our operation. Her name is Pearl. Everyone knows I love Pearl and all that she's done for us. She's raised over $350,000 in progeny, and her calf production, it's very strong. And so with that, my passion runs very deep. And I now, like you said, I work as an event coordinator at Will Rogers Memorial Center. After my time at Texas A&M, I had always really dreamt since I was 10 years old of becoming a livestock director for a major show around Texas or around the country. And so at a young age, you're kind of like, how do you transpire? How do you go after that? And so, of course, with the grace of having a lot of mentors, I got to do some internships during my time at Texas A&M with San Antonio Market Steer Show, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Heifer Show, State Fair of Texas, and many more. And so after graduating, I graduated during COVID. And so it was kind of like, okay, what do I do next? Like you had mentioned at the time, I was interning with the Cowboy Channel and RFD TV. I was originally supposed to move to Washington, D.C. to pursue a broadcast ag advocacy policy internship. And of course, everything happens for a reason. So I ended up staying home in Texas that summer, interning remotely through the national office. I worked and helped write news scripts for Market Day Report. And I just really, at a young age, had a love for journalism and for broadcasting. And, with great mentors and help from Kirby Schnorr and Amy Wilson, and then getting to know Jenny as well, it was just a great environment. And then, the real world hit, and finding jobs at that time was extremely hard. And so after graduating from A&M, I did a 10-day long internship with Cowboy Channel during their NFR as a production assistant. Kind of got to see the back ends. And then, was still writing a little bit for the Cowboy Channel and going to some different shows in Texas to grab content. The first ever, The Patriot, and then I worked at the Cattlemen's Congress. So all of this, I'm doing my best to find a full-time job, and came across a job at the Colonial Country Club here in Fort Worth, Texas. They host the PGA Tour called Charles Schwab Challenge, and it's, like I said, it was on it's part of the PGA Tour, and so I was doing weddings and golf tournaments for about a year, and just really enjoyed kind of seeing a different perspective and getting to know all the members who are very well respected and known here in Fort Worth, Texas. So with that, I then left about a year after the opportunity to work at Will Rogers as an event coordinator through connections. My thing is connections, networking, and so now I've been there for almost 3 years, and we host and put on some of the, well, not some of the largest horse shows, equestrian shows, and of course the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, our very distinct and prestigious client. They're in office on our facility. So our clients, working with the National Cutting Horse Association. We currently have the National Reining Cow Horse Association snaffle bit fraternity going on right now here in Fort Worth. We've got about a week left of that show, and then we host, the American Paint Horse Association, their World Championship. I've had a lot of fun getting to work with some different pig sales and operations and shows that we have. And the Ranch Sorting National Championships, they're here in June. The list goes on. So the job is a little bit different. It's not like you're working with the organization, you're working on the facility side. So you're handling a lot of what I like to call the dirty logistics that no one thinks about. And no one thinks, everyone thinks, oh, you're an event planner, or you're doing all the pretty work, and you're getting to do all the picking the colors and, picking, no, not in this role. It's very much so, we're handling all of the security, parking, all of the things that make the event run that no one sees. So it's a lot of work. It can be stressful at times, but it's very rewarding. And I always tell people it's really cool that I was 10 years old walking the streets of Will Rogers while I was exhibiting my heifers at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And then here I am, kind of just always wondered what would I be doing one day. And this is a stepping stone in my career. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, a full circle moment for sure. Well,
yes.
You alluded to the large events that you host at Will Rogers, but take us through a day in your life at work in your current role.
A day in my life. Well, I'll just give an example. What I would say if I have one of my own events. We're a team of 4 event managers. We host over 200 events a year. So therefore, not one person can do it themselves. So for myself, every event manager, event coordinator is a little bit different. But for say, we're coming up on the Snaffle Bit finals here on Saturday. It's going to be a big day between the finals and the Coliseum. Or what some people call the Will Rogers. And then we have a roping championship in the John Justin. And then also going on that day is one of the Western Bloodstock horse sales going on in our water arena. So we're going to know that the facility is going to be extremely busy that day, and I kind of just expect for a longer day. I like to always every day get in. I'm a very mobile person. I think, when you work at a property that's 120 acres, there's a lot of things to see each day. And when you're working more on the operational standpoint, I'm wanting to make sure that the area where my client is at is well managed. It's clean. The streets are clean. The client's happy. But for a day of like a finals, they'll be having a party in our East Coliseum lot. So again, our facility's been, the original facility was built in 1936. So you're working with a facility that has a lot of older pieces, very neat pieces. But when it comes to to running a big horse show, you come across some challenges, so you kind of have to make do. And that's one of the also neat things of working in events is problem solving. So I would just walk around the entire facility, put my eyes on those areas that they're using, check in with the client, of course, and kind of just get a day of like what we're going to be doing for that day. So knowing that we have the finals coming up, we're going to be hosting, the show will be hosting a big watch party in one of our outdoor lots. So we're going to be expecting a lot of food trucks. We'll be setting out all the tables and chairs. We'll have a big bodega, like an Airstream bar set out in that space. The show has hired a band to come in, so we're wanting to make sure, the stage is set, the sound is set. And then, then we're working with a third party catering company that has a contract with the city of Fort Worth. So we're making sure, are you guys set with your bar? Have you hired enough temp agency, temps to come in and manage those bars? And so this is all, hours ahead, because time management and event planning is very crucial. And again, when all of this is taking place and you still have 2 other events going on that morning in preparation for the big finals night in the Coliseum, we're then wanting to make sure that all of the seats in the Coliseum are good to go, everything's clean, everything's set up, and that the show needs what they need. For this show specifically, they'll be bringing in their own sound company. So just again, it's the big event that they have been leading up to for their whole entire 3 weeks of show. So it's stressful, but a lot of moving. Everyone always likes to make a bet on me on how many steps I take a day. And it's so much fun because I get to walk a lot. But I always tell people that really helps with, my thinking and making sure that I get stuff done. So kind of a day in the life, it differs. I think I tell people all the time with event planning and event coordinating and this role, not every company is the same, but with the facility of this, large, sometimes we have 5 events going on at once, and that may not just be in a horse show. We just got through a big, it's called Christmas in Cowtown. It's a gift market put on by the Junior League of Fort Worth, and so we're managing multiple events at once, and all with that, we're making sure that the safety of our patrons is also included. So that's kind of a day in my life.
Certainly, very full. Well, I think there's a lot of value to be had in looking to other industries and applying some of those skills to ag, rodeo, etc. Talk about your experience working at the country club and some tricks of the trade you learned there that you apply now at Will Rogers.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I never would have pictured myself working at Colonial. At a country club, I always wanted to graduate college and wanted to go straight into the ag industry. And I think it's a great example. And just, if I'm 3rd generation agriculturist, cattle rancher, that's what I have a vision for myself. But I think it was so just a great learning experience. I think the people, it taught me a lot about communicating and connecting with the members. And, for example, planning weddings and being a part of the Charles Schwab PGA event in 2022. I was a venue manager for the players and the caddies. I always tell people I got to watch Phil Mickelson coming off a big PGA championship win, warm up over in the driving range. And that was really cool. Jordan Spieth, all the big players, but getting to manage that venue alongside 3 of the big sponsors for the Charles Schwab, all in that week's time. And also kind of being the liaison between the PGA Tour, the ground crew, and then Colonial. I just learned a lot about time management, communication, planning, and it kind of gives you that adrenaline rush. And it was just something new. And I think that is such a great example of being open-minded. It taught me that I don't have to to always, I won't lose who I am as a cattle producer or an agriculturist. It is okay to go to different, organizations and industries and learn. You're only, you're building that longer table, and just becoming more connected with others. So I was at the time for about 3 weeks. I was the director of catering, like interim. So I was more on the food and beverage side. And I remember having to take over, I probably planned over 40 weddings. And one of the weddings that I planned, well, I didn't plan, but when my previous boss had left, I had to really take over the rest of her reigns, and I had a major momzilla.
There's
And
always
it was
one.
just so funny because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 23, 22, 23, and I'm like having to just take all the pieces and make the wedding happen. But with that, I told someone a story the other day. One of the members that I planned a wedding for his son. Now we have a tradition every year where we go to the Sale of Champions at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo together. He's he's a buyer for his company, and I go with he and his brothers, and it's just the best to be a part of the Sale of Champions, and get to be a part of that each year for the stock show.
Most definitely. Well, you get to see the ins and outs of anything from a relatively small event to a very large production. Across the board, what makes a good event?
Ooh, good communication. As I'm learning, I'm having communication with the client months in advance, depending on the size of the event. But normally we particularly like to reach out 2 to 4 months in advance. And with these, with NCHA and Cow Horse and the events where we're doing, NCHA, we do 3 events a year. We host 3 events a year. And NRCHA, we host 2 events a year. And so I think that's the coolest part I've really enjoyed, as building those relationships with the clients, having communication with them. But I'm also working with 7 different departments within Will Rogers, that make the event happen, between, event services, which is, essentially they're taking the diagrams and the information that we send out to them, and they're setting up the events, they're setting up the arenas. Then we have our barn crew who, delivers all the shavings. Each show normally has pre-bed, and they're cleaning the stalls. They're making it happen. We have our RV department. Our RV department brings in over $1 million a year. Majority of our horse shows, we have full service RV lots that are normally booked every single show. We have a shavings department, and so it's just kind of being the essential, liaison between the client, then our department, the event manager department, and then all of the other departments. So I've learned that if one thing is missed, that can really have an impact on the event as a whole. So I'm still working on that. I think, anyone and everyone can be better at communicating, but it's a lot of stress. And just, I've also learned having a very good attitude about it. We're working with sporting events. We're working with Western, like horse and livestock. We're doing concerts. You're working with a lot of different people and personalities. And so just being true to myself, like I come from, my cattle operation. So if I can share my stories with my clients, that kind of creates a deeper connection.
That's a great segue. You visited about your family's cattle operation and your involvement with that. How have you remained involved and contributing while you are working at Will Rogers and pursuing other things at the same time?
Sure. Yeah. Like I had mentioned, I live in Alita, work in Fort Worth, and I live about an hour north of where my parents' operation is. And I have such a love for the show cattle industry. I told you earlier where, when you finish after all those years showing and competing all over the country, and that was my life. Like, My cattle were my better friends than actual people. So you can relate with your horses. And obviously the people that I met through those organizations became my best friends for life. But it was hard leaving that role as a showman and kind of moving into a different role in the industry. But I'm very thankful. Our goal when we were showing cattle, purchasing cattle, raising our show animals growing up for our FFA and 4-H projects was, to invest in females that along the road would go out and produce, very good cattle. Were very versatile. Our donor cows, a lot of our donor cows were old show heifers of mine. Like I said, Pearl, we had another ORB Canada Cross female that was Reserve Supreme at Houston and went on to win Fort Worth and Rodeo Austin, and they were just known for being versatile. So then kind of seeing the process and getting to help be involved with my dad. We do a lot of IVF and embryo transfer work, and I've learned so much from my dad, and I love to just go home as much as I can. We have a sale every spring online on SEO, and we have heifers, we have steers, and I just love to be a part of that process, from breeding season to calving season to winning them, helping with marketing, posting them on social media. With my position, I'm getting to see a lot of people and getting to kind of be that like face for our cattle operation. We own a lot of cows with Dan Sullivan. Dan and my dad moved down from Iowa. I have a lot of family that still lives in Western Iowa, and they started over 30 years ago, Sullivan Supply South here in Texas. And so even with the transition and not being involved in that company anymore, we still own a lot of cattle together. So it's been really cool to be a part of that and get to see these show heifers of mine now come in to be dominant females that have raised champion steers at Texas majors and all across the nation. So I love it. And people say, are you going to do that as a whole one day? I'm like, well, not really at this time. I think, my parents always had, my mom's a teacher and my dad managed Sullivan Supply forever. And so they showcased me that we could do this as our lifestyle. But right now, I'm finding other ways to still stay involved in the industry too.
Very cool. I think that's a great sentiment to having patience when it comes to career decisions, whether that be, taking the job at the country club, waiting for an opportunity to emerge in an industry that you're most passionate about, etc. What advice would you give to a young woman or frankly, just a young professional in general who is having to trust the process when it comes to all things career and big life decisions?
Yeah, that's really hard because I'm currently struggling with that too, and so trusting the process. I'm a bit, I have a good relationship with the Lord, and so I think in the last year or so I've really seen, getting involved in my church and getting involved with the community and connecting, because you may not 100% like where you're at now in your job or where you live or the people that you're surrounded with, but like only you can make that change. So I would just say to continue to trust is to actually like create kind of a soft game plan of where you want to be in 6 months. Because I say soft because you got to trust the process, but it looks different for everyone, but for me, I really thrive off of having a good community and meeting others. And so getting to be a part of, different organizations around Fort Worth. I tell people this all the time too. One of my good mentors, her name is Martha Garrett. She was an Aggie and is very involved in marketing and journalism side of the purebred cattle operation. And when I was going through the time of having to do my internship with RFD TV remote, she encouraged me to create a spreadsheet and reach out to over 50 people in the summertime. And so I started with, she gave me 3 names of people I should reach out to, and then I would just hop on a call with them or meet them for coffee. interview them and, ask them questions. They may not be doing something career wise that I want to, but like it never hurts to learn and to be open-minded. And so with that, then I would get three more people. And so I just built a list of people. I always like to tell people that was a really great experience for me. And still to this day, I have some really good friends that I built from that project, or encouragement from Martha. So staying connected. And with that, like living in Fort Worth, I say never, you can't ever say never, but living in a bigger city has been challenging because it's, you're used to the farm life and being around the animals, but it's also been really exciting and brought me a lot of cool opportunities. I would just say getting involved and being a part of the community. I'm a member of the Junior League of Fort Worth and the Farm and Ranch Club, and then I have a good friend of mine who has created an awesome organization called Cowgirls and Cocktails. And Lexi has been just such a great soundboard and someone I could go and support and talk to. And she is, creating an opportunity for women in agriculture in the Western industry to come together monthly and meet and just connect and network and give us a good chance to dress up and do all the fun things. And so having things like that to look forward to, but I think just having a good foundation of like your morals and values, like I just always try and stay true to who I am. And if something doesn't seem right to you, like don't be afraid to walk away from it, because sometimes new opportunities bring new chapter in your life.
For sure. Well, I must say, as a born and raised Nebraskan, I do have FOMO looking at all of the posts from Cowgirls and Cocktails. It looks like such a fun organization to be a part of. So very cool, and slightly jealous that you have the opportunity to be a part of that. But listening to you talk about that journey reminded me of, I'm listening to an audiobook by Ina Garten that's titled Be Ready When the Luck Happens. And that is kind of what I'm hearing from you, is you're really equipping yourself with all the tools you need. So when there's an opportunity, you can really take full advantage of that, which I think is really neat. So being a part of the Fort Worth ecosystem is unique on a few fronts. Number one, it's a big city, as you alluded to. But number two, it's heavily rooted in Western culture and rich tradition. What is it like to get to contribute to that on a daily basis, either through your involvements or through your work life?
It's really neat. I think coming to work each day and just, I find something new about the facility every single day, whether it's the artwork that's on the front of the Coliseum and the auditorium, the original buildings that kind of, it's been there since 1936. So it tells the story of how the Western lifestyle has evolved in Fort Worth. And then, being in the facility, watching the horses show and being in that atmosphere brings a lot of joy. I think the stockyards is continuing to grow. But I love getting to volunteer with the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, and seeing it from a different perspective. It hit home for me, and just getting to meet all of the incredible people and hearing their stories. Fort Worth is a great city. I call it the smaller town vibe. Everyone likes to say Fort Worth or Dallas. I'm not a fan of Dallas. There's nothing against it, but I just think Fort Worth has all of these incredible opportunities. When I was at A&M, I wanted to move to Fort Worth, and here I am, and I'm really, really enjoying it. Like I said, I keep going back to the people, because these people, it's a lot of rich culture and history, and just getting to be kind of in the middle of that and see it continue to evolve is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the threads of this conversation is undoubtedly networking and building those connections, which is great in theory. But a lot of people may be listening to this saying, but how do I tactically go about this? How do I create connections with people in a way that's not awkward or feels forced? What would be your best networking tips to someone who's a little unsure about taking the leap and chatting with someone new?
Sure. I would just say, no one can I guess coming with the confidence is hard, but no one knows that you're nervous. So just kind of dress up, show up, have business cards. I'm a big believer in writing thank you notes and handwriting them, sending them to the person. But I think just coming in with the intent of like, there's no expectations here. No one's gonna like turn you away. Everyone, like, I know if someone came up to me, I love talking to people. So it can be very intimidating, but I would just say kind of come, if you're coming to Cowgirls and Cocktails for the first time and you're alone, find one person that you may like their outfit and just compliment them. Or if you have a specific person that you really want to talk to. I attended a class at A&M my freshman year that, LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn, and you're seeking an opportunity in the job world or just wanting to connect with someone, going to that specific company and like literally I added like everyone from RFD TV. And at the time I wanted to work for the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys. I have a little interest in sports too. And I added a lot of people and I just would send these random people emails and just, kind of let them know what I was seeking. And some people that may be overwhelming to them, but just kind of setting up the conversation and letting the rest of it flow. I'm not sure if that's really helpful. That's just kind of what I have found that is really helpful. And then, just finding a space where you find, your happiness and joy, because that's the most important, going to work each day or being, for me, it's going to the barn and working on our cattle or being out in the field with my dad. So
Yeah, great advice. Well, I know this can kind of be a daunting question because we just talked about trusting the process and not trying to rush things along. But as you look ahead to, we're rounding out 2024 here in a few months, as you look towards the next year and even the next 5 years or so, what are some goals you have for yourself that you'd like to bring to fruition?
Oh, yeah, that's always a question that everyone gets a little anxiety about, because you're like, well, I have one thing, but it's kind of cool. I like to try and look at it as like, where was I 5 years ago? And am
Hmm.
I like, did my goals align with where I'm at now? And,
Hmm.
I'm a big believer in like, you've prayed for this. So like, be happy in the moment. But I understand the question of the 5 years from now or in 2025, I would like to, I'm waiting on my acceptance. I've applied to obtain my master's in sports management from the University of Alabama. It's going to be an online program. Like I said, I have this other love for sports, and as I'm already in the hospitality industry, I think it's really cool to just kind of make a full circle. This education, I've always wanted to pursue a master's, and it never hurts to get a better education. And so I would say to start that in the spring would be a goal of mine. I will be, like I said, I'll be at 3 years at Will Rogers and not too long. And so as I look there, I'll probably, look at where I'm at in my career and where I want to be in the next 5 years and what would that look like. Like I said, with obtaining this master's degree, I think that will kind of give me a more full perspective of what I want to do. And then I don't know, that's always a hard question too. I know this is a big like jump, but as we kind of grow in our cattle operation, I would love to raise a really good heifer steer that would win one of the big shows, one of the national shows. So that would be a goal, like more on a personal level for my family's operation, and just to probably, I don't know, just by then, I may still be in Fort Worth or I may be somewhere else, but I think it would be taking a step in the right direction with my career. And I always say one day this is again getting more personal, but to be a mom and get to be able to raise my future kids, God willing, in this industry. So in 5 years, I think I just would like to be a better version of who I am today, because I love who I am today, but I'm still young, and so it's always room to grow.
I love that perspective. Well, it's a loaded question, but it is so fun to listen to people verbalize their hopes and dreams for the future because, sometimes once we verbalize those things, it really sets in motion a chain of events. So I'm excited
Yes.
to follow along with that. Well, we have so much wisdom that passes through the podcast each week. And one of my favorite things to ask guests to share is either the best piece of advice that they have ever received or a piece of advice that they'd like to pass along.
That's a really great question. I've received a lot of really, really good advice. But I told a group of FFA and 4-H exhibitors last week as I judged at the State Fair of Texas, the Prospect Steer Showmanship. I just told them that their roles won't ever change. And, speaking to the younger generation, I think that's where my passion lies. And so I would just want to tell those who are listening, like your roles in the industry, I say the roles can change, but like your impact can stay the same. And so for those who are graduating or moving on from college and seeking, a new job experience, or they're just changing in life, is to always trust in God's plan and know that as long as you're passionate about what you do and have a good, faithful, relationship with the Lord and have loving people around you, don't listen to the expectations of what our world is expecting us to do in today's, name and age. I would just say to trust in God and to seek happiness and joy, and the right things will come. Like you said, manifesting, so important.
Yeah, great wisdom. Well, we've covered so much ground today. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us. Is there anything we've missed that you'd like people to know?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, thank you for having me. It's, again, such a small world. How, like you said earlier, getting to meet you. I remember meeting you at the Cowboy Channel, the main office, and we were doing different, internships there, but just getting to connect with you and Taylor and Megan and the whole. And I'm just so proud of everyone. You guys are living y'all's dreams too. And I think mentors and just shouting out the people in my life, you had asked, I think one of the questions of just people that have made an impact on my life. And my parents, my dad, both my parents came from, the cattle world, but my dad is, he probably doesn't realize it, but he is someone I truly, truly just admire in the cattle industry, as well as his brothers. They all manage ranches across the U.S. And so to learn from them and their wisdom on that side. And then I would say women like Martha Garrett, Pam Minnick. She helped me publish my first article that was published in Rodeo News, and Kirby Schnorr, Amy Wilson. There's tons of people, but, again, thank you guys for getting to be a part of my journey. And I'm just so excited and really honored to be here today.
Oh. Well, what a beautiful time to be alive, where we can all stay connected online and stay up to date with what we're doing. At the time of this recording, I am in remote rural Nebraska, and I get to chat with someone all the way down in Fort Worth, Texas, to learn from them. So what a cool thing to be a part of. And Kendra, we're so grateful that you joined us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And hopefully it'll get cooler here like it's up there in Nebraska.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Breaking the Barrier. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review and share with a friend, and we'll see you next Tuesday.